Hello, this is Mike Teaches Programming, and welcome to episode 2 of creating a Spring Boot microservice. In today's episode, we're going to be adding an API gateway using Spring Cloud Gateway, and we're also going to be spinning up our services using Docker Compose. So I'm going to kind of run through this. I don't want it to be as long as the other videos, but let's start. So create a new project in IntelliJ. We're using Spring Initializer for this. You can also use it online. So again, for group, let's go com.michael, my name, artifact ID, I'll call it API-gateway, and the rest is okay. Just change the Java version to 8. Now here for the dependencies, what we're really going to be adding is just for our gateway. So if we go to Spring Cloud Routing and just click on the gateway, we don't want Zool. Zool is Netflix, and the rest we don't need. So just the gateway one. Click on next and click finish. So a bit about why we need a gateway in a microservice architecture. Now, what an API gateway does, it's kind of your one-stop for all of your API requests. So all your requests coming into the system go through the API gateway. So none of your backend services are exposed to the user. If they are, they go through the API gateway. So your user sends the request to the API gateway, and they're routed. Your API gateway sends them accordingly to each service, okay? And that would be based on kind of the URL of what's being sent by the user using Postman or however they're using the GUI, etc. Okay, so you can see here in the project we've created a simple project in the POM file. You can see all the different dependencies. While we're here, let's click on the build and type in final name. I'm going to call it API Gateway. For simplicity, whenever we generate our jar file. It's a simple Spring Boot service with nothing in it. So where do you define the roots? You can define the roots using kind of classes within Java, within this application, but we're not going to do it that way. What I'm going to do is show you how to do it using the application YAML file. Okay. So click here under resources and just delete the application properties and create a new file and call it application.yaml. Okay, and first thing I always do is give it a name. So Spring Cloud or Spring application name. Let's just call it API Gateway. And if we go back to the same level as application, and just type in cloud. Okay, now you can see here that we have Spring Cloud Gateway roots. It's a list of roots. Okay, so click on that. Now here is where we define all of our roots. So whenever the user sends a request into the API gateway, based on the URL, we're going to route it to or direct it to the microservice that's hidden behind this API gateway. Okay, so first off, we create a new list item, and the new list item in YAML is defined by this, and we can define all of its properties. So the first one we're going to do is create an ID. So from episode 1, we created a library service. So this ID is going to be called library service. Okay. Now the URI of this library service is going to be http:/library service, and it's going to exist on port 8080. So if you can remember from the first one, we had a library service where we sent requests to localhost 8080 /library/books, and it returned a list of books. Okay, so just keep this in mind for now. Now what we want to do is, because we're not exposing the library service anymore, whenever somebody sends this request, it's going to hear this API gateway. And what we need to do is basically, whenever something comes in as library, we want to forward it to our library service. Now this here library service, this is going to be the IP address of the Docker container that it exists on. And Docker Compose will replace this library service with the IP of the internal container. So only Docker, whenever you spin it up in Docker Compose, will this service communicate with the library service, and we'll get that IP at runtime. But for now, just keep this in mind, and whenever we get to that stage, I will tell you to think back. So the next thing we need to do is give it predicate. So predicates, and we are going to say that path is equal to /library /anything. So we're basically saying if a user sends a request to /library /anything, then we're going to forward the request onto the library service. And what that will do is, so if we send this request to the API gateway books, it's going to forward the request to HTTP library service 8080 /library /books. Okay, simple. So I'll quickly run it over. I'm not going through all of the stuff that the gateway provides. It's a simple gateway. I just want to show you guys how we can make a simple gateway. So that's our first thing we do here, just define the routes. If you had more services, you define more list items. Next we need to do is we need to make a new Docker file and create an image. Just Docker file, I think. Okay, and yep, we just created a Docker file. I have one to the left of me here on a different screen. Just gonna copy and paste. Again, it's the same. What we're doing is taking a base image, we're adding the generated jar file from target. As you can see, we don't have a target yet, but we will get there. And then we run this command whenever we spin up the Docker container. Okay. So what we need to do first is generate that API, or that jar file. Sorry. So live and clean install. Oh, sorry, that is not going to work. Okay, because I misspelled it. Clean install. So that there will generate our target folder with the API gateway jar file. Okay. So just give that a minute. And you can see here target folder, and we have our API gateway jar, which is this one, and we're putting it into the Docker container. So open up a terminal and just do Docker images first. So you can see here I've been playing around with this before. I have an API gateway image already, but let me delete that. To delete the image, Docker RMI, and it's going to be 92. So you can see now, sorry, Docker images. I only have the library service that we defined before in episode 1. So please watch that to get that image. Okay, so let's build this image now. So we go Docker build -t for the name. So we're going to call it API gateway, and the dot for in this directory. So that picks up this Docker file. You can see the steps. There's 4 steps, and it runs it. So if we do Docker images now, we can see there's an API gateway and a library service. Okay. Now, the next thing to do is how do we run this all together? And the answer to that is Docker Compose. Okay. So what we need to do is create a Docker Compose file. Now you can do this in any directory, doesn't matter because we have our images saved, but I'm going to create it under the API gateway just so it's quick and easy. So docker-compose.yml. That is our Docker Compose file. Now Docker Compose file starts off with a version. The version I'm going to be using is 3.1. Okay. Next thing we need to do is define the list of services. So our Docker Compose file will have 2 services. It's going to have an API gateway, and it's going to have a library service. Okay, so what we can do now is we can point these services to an image. So image, and the API gateway image is API-gateway, and for the library service, its image is library dash service. Okay, that is the most basic Docker Compose file that we can do. What we need to do is expose one of them for our users. So we click down, type ports, sorry, PORTS, yeah, and we expose on our machine port 8080, map it to the internal port 80 of the API gateway. So you can see here that we're not exposing our library service on any external port. So we cannot hit this library service at all unless we go through the API gateway. Okay, so how to run this? Let's go to the terminal again. You need to be in the same directory as the Docker Compose. I would just type in docker dash compose dash up, I think. Yep. So docker dash compose up, and you can see here that it will spin up our two services. Okay. So it started the API gateway application and it started our library service. So if we open up a new terminal and we type in docker ps -a, we can see here that we have our API gateway running and our library service running. Okay, you see here that this port is, an internal port. Okay, whereas on the API gateway we've mapped an external port 8080 to the internal port 8080. Okay, so now what we can do is test this application out. Okay, and I'll open this. If we go back to here, okay, so here type in 8080 and let's send a GET request to our API gateway, and that should route us through to our library service, and you can see here that we're getting a response. Okay, and you can see here in the logs that our library service is being hit. Okay, so we could put some logs in our API gateway, to show that it's going through there, but the routing is doing that. So I mean, if we do the following, so if you press Control C, it stops both. And if we take away this ports, okay, and we do a docker compose up, so we're not exposing any ports to our users. Okay, so let's see, we started the library, started the gateway. If we send a request now, we're getting no response. There's no routing happening. There's nothing exposed. So that goes to prove that our request is going through the API gateway on port 8080 and it's being sent down to our library service. So thanks for listening. Subscribe for part 3, where we'll be adding in our discovery service, and any other tutorials you can think of, let me know and I will get around to doing it. Thank you.